Nietzsche talks a lot about this idea of art as concealing and revealing, and it has to be rhythmically pulsating in this concealing and revealing, or it's not art. It's something else, right? It's just like expression. I feel like a lot of people think that art is just expression, but he really thought that art was something else. It was more akin to like the artist who may not know anything, they may not know much, but they have an instinct on how to get wet and climb something high and get hit by lightning by the gods and have their little moment of aporia or whatever, you know? So this is a part of our wine too that I think is interesting is there's a, and also the farming, there's this aspect of like um, not, not constantly testing, not constantly prodding, not even touching a vine that I think is dead for a year and then it kind of makes a new vine out of it or it makes some fruit the next year. So I think that nature has all of these things going on that we're never going to be totally privy to.
Hey, welcome to Beyond Organic Wine. I'm Adam Huss. Thank you for listening. What do you think, you higher men? Am I a prophet, a dreamer, a drunkard, an interpreter of dreams, a midnight bell, a drop of dew, an odor and scent of eternity? Do you not hear it? Do you not smell it? My world has just become perfect. Midnight is also noonday. Pain is also joy. A curse is also a blessing. The night is also a sun. That's Friedrich Nietzsche, as quoted on the label of a bottle of wine made by my guest for this episode, Alejandro Fargosonini. Before I get into that, I have some big news that impacts you if you're listening to this right now. After a lot of consideration and after I made announcements last week and asked for any kind of feedback about sponsoring different kinds of episodes and not really getting much response, I'm moving Beyond Organic Wine onto Substack. You can find Beyond Organic Wine now at beyondorganicwine.substack.com. In fact, whether you know it or not, this episode was published on Substack. There will still be regular free episodes like this one, but some episodes will be available only to subscribers to the Beyond Organic Wine Substack. This allows me to invest more time into some stories that I want to tell, to do more deep dives and provide more valuable content, and have a way to make it make sense financially. At least that's the hope. I'm asking for your help with this. As I mentioned on the last episode, none of my time that I spend currently in researching, interviewing, writing, and producing episodes of the podcast is paid for. And I'm happy with that for the most part. I want to share ecological knowledge about wine, and this podcast is a great opportunity to connect with and build a community of incredible people who are interested in, making the world a better place, ultimately, through wine. I'm incredibly grateful for all of the non-financial benefits that come from doing this. But I also want to do more, and money, unfortunately, is the one limiting factor that means I can't dedicate more time to this. I've plateaued at a lovely level, but I don't want to plateau. I want to keep growing. So Substack. If you don't want to subscribe, no problem. Not much will change for you except that you'll only be able to listen to the first few minutes of some episodes. But I'll still release lots of free episodes. And I'm going to gift free Substack subscriptions to all Patreon subscribers for some period of time, depending on your level of subscription. I haven't quite figured it all out. You can continue to contribute via Patreon or switch to Substack at your leisure. There may be some transition issues as I make the switch. This episode is a bit of a beta test, so let me know. Substack may not feed to all the same pod streaming services, but I think the main ones are set up. So just to make sure I'm posting via the old service, Podbean, as well, and we'll continue to double post with these announcements for the next month before cutting off the old service entirely. Please let me know if you notice any issues. You can email me at connect@organicwinepodcast.com. If you subscribe to the Beyond Organic Wine Substack, you're not only going to get access to all the audio, not just the free ones, but I'm also going to be using Substack to release special how-to content, subject matter episodes, research compilations of many different topics, journalistic and op-ed style articles, practical resources, videos, and more. All the things that take time to create, go deeper, hopefully will be more helpful and even more entertaining, and therefore more valuable to everyone. You can, of course, continue to just listen to the podcast episodes the same way without much change. But Beyond Organic Wine will also become much more of a multimedia resource for all things related to wine growing and winemaking, from the refreshing, revolutionary, ecological perspective that aims to decolonize our global wine cultures and revive or recreate beautiful local wine cultures that revitalize our ecosystems and inspire our ability to imagine and build a better future of wine. So I hope you'll join me on Substack. Again, beyondorganicwine.substack.com. Thank you. And now, speaking of helpful resources, I have a book recommendation. If you haven't read it and you work with vines in any kind of viticultural capacity, you gotta read Sunlight into Wine, subtitled A Handbook for Wine Grape Canopy Management. It's by Richard Smart and Mike Robinson. Richard Smart, if you are in vines at all, you might know there are trellis systems named after him. And once you read his handbook, you will understand why. My host while I was in Quebec, Maxime, was shocked that I hadn't read this book yet. It's not really a book, it's a handbook. And once I read it, I was also shocked that I hadn't read it yet either. It's really something everyone who plays with vines should read at the very beginning of your journey. And it really is a handbook. It's only 100 pages, spiral bound, but it's dense. I mean, densely packed. Not hard to understand. Not that anyone is planting vineyards at this point in history, but read this before you do. And if you're someone who planted a vineyard because of your love of wine, and now you realized you have to figure out how to actually grow these things to make healthy grapes, this is the book you need. But anyone who works with grapes, really, this should be part of all viticultural 101 curricula. One caveat, it's an old book at this point. The original copyright was 1991, so some of the science may have evolved since then, so do your research. But I know a lot of it is still very applicable. I know a lot of winemakers who still reference it. It still holds up in many, many ways. It basically debunked the idea of low yield equaling quality and other myths about what makes quality wine. And it's surprising how long those, misinformed ideas have lasted. I mean, even to this day, people still talk about low yields and, we get the yields down, the quality is higher. It's like it has absolutely nothing to do with yield, except, which he shows, that it is the ratio of leaves and clusters to sunlight that makes delicious wine. And that means on high vigor sites and with high vigor varieties, like some hybrids, for example, you need to allow for bigger vines and bigger yields to balance the sunlight with the vine vigor. The other thing I should mention is that if you try to buy this book on Amazon, it's $120, and probably, other sites are similar to that. And that's because it's out of print and you're buying a somewhat rare copy. But you can, probably find a PDF of the handbook online, or as I did, get it through your local library. My guest for this episode is Alejandro Fargosonini. With his partner, Andrea Spaziani, he farms and makes wine at Chateauneuf du Fargonsonini in the center of California's Central Valley. Alejandro lives off-grid on his vineyard site at the foot of the Sierra Madres, where he grows a mix of, I think he said, around 70 varieties of grapes, some hybrids, some non-hybrids. He's a philosophy PhD student, an artist, and in addition to grape wine, he received a grant and he makes wine from upcycled fruit that would otherwise go into the waste stream and be wasted. His wines are imaginative and fun and liberated from any preconceived ideas of what wine is supposed to be, while also being deeply thoughtful and reflective of his unique place on the earth. I think you're going to like him as much as I do. Enjoy. Alejandro, hello. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Can you introduce yourself a bit and, just basic stuff and, the name of your winery, that kind of thing?
Okay, the name of our winery is Chateauneuf du Fargonsonini. Um, it's run by me and Andrea Spaziani, who's my partner. Um, we're a very small experimental winery in the southern Central Valley near Sequoia National Park. Um,
And you
yeah, we
like
try.
that you like that your name is unpronounceable and unspellable, right?
Some people call it the Chateauneuf. It started out as a joke. Our Chateauneuf is a 1986 RV in the middle of a vineyard that's off grid, 9 acres of Grenache that we live in. And Chateauneuf du Pape is probably the least hipster wine region I could think of. Um, and our Chateauneuf was, it means the new house of the Pope. The Pope had a vacation home near there,
Right?
so it's kind of a joke about our living situation out there, and then it kind of just took on its own I don't know, Dionysian revelry and sort of we kind of we work with what we have. We work with the climate there. We have our vineyard when we took it over was not nobody had been farming it for about 15 years, and it was doing pretty well considering. Um, the Grenache loves the heat. We're about a mile away from the Kings River that makes Kings Canyon, another national park, pretty much the same place as Sequoia.
Yeah.
And it comes down out of the mountains. Humans have built a big reservoir to keep it to stop the flooding and make hydroelectricity. And out of the dam there, the lower Kings River comes out and comes down about maybe 15 miles to right by our vineyards. So we have a lot of groundwater. We've got sandy land and very dry air. And it's a very ideal climate and place to grow certain types of heat loving grapes.
Right.
And it's also supposedly, they say this at the airport when you fly into Fresno, that it's the farming capital of the world. I know it's one of them. I don't have that level of that breadth of knowledge. I don't know what's going on in India or China or wherever where they might be doing some. I know Turkey has a huge amount of farming, but the Central Valley in California it's enormous. I mean, if you look at the numbers, there's certain crops that just wouldn't exist in the U.S. Or would have to be imported or whatever.
If it
So
weren't for, yeah.
so our winery is a lot about upcycling. We do stuff with local organic orchards and berry farmers and some other types of fruit. And when they have stuff that they can no longer transport because it's so ripe, it's about to pop, and they're going to have to pay somebody to shovel it and mulch it out into their field and make a big mess, which sometimes creates other problems with insects and stuff. They call us and we turn it into wine.
Amazing. How
Um,
so okay, this there's there's a lot going on here, and I know you're everywhere. You do a lot of you're kind of like a man about town, but you're a man about state in California anyway. Um you do kind of bounce around quite a bit, right? Like you're in the Bay Area, you're in LA, you were just at a like something in Los Alamos or somewhere in Santa Barbara County anyway. What's your life like in terms of all the stuff that you're doing? Like what's your daily, weekly, monthly?
so we're about 3 to 3.5 hour drive to LA or the Bay. So that's probably the best part about it, business wise, is if we need to go there, it's not very difficult.
Right.
Whereas if you're in one or the other, driving to the other one is going to be like a 7 hour affair or whatever.
Right.
Um, so we're about 2 hours from the coast. We're also 3 hours directly south of Sacramento. And so my day to day life, well, I live off grid in the Grenache vineyard where we have about 70 other types of grapes that we've planted, including about 30 hybrids and Probably not. I would guess that maybe half of that is still alive. We have kind of figure out some of it is of course chance, but a lot of it is kind of figuring out heat tolerance and sun tolerance. I found that many grapes can live out there if they're partially shaded, and pretty much all the babies have to be in the shade because the sun is
Oh,
so
really?
intense.
Yeah. So what are the? I mean, you don't have to go in. How many different varieties of things have you trialed so far?
For grapes, it's
Yeah.
around 70,
Okay.
and for other fruits, there's a lot. I don't know the number. I would say like 2 dozen different kinds of different kinds of cuttings of apples, and some are berries, some are bushes, some are fruit trees.
Okay.
And it's kind of the vineyard is it's very wild. We call our philosophy much more Dionysian than Apollonian. So Dionysus, the god of wine, the harvest, nature, sort of the pure present that you feel when you're drunk, outside of the past and the future. And Apollo is more the god of math, plans, architecture, dreams, but dreams that are written out and planned out. And
Hmm.
our whole philosophy is that winemaking and farming have both gone way too Apollonian, um, to the point of the earth is suffering from it. People's health is suffering from it, because it's all about yields and gains, and it's not about like caring about the soil after you use it, or the water after you use it, or the people who are eating the food. Or in wine, it can just be about boredom and not wanting to have the same old flavors every single time.
Yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that. I feel like, well, go go down that. You say, I heard you say non-intensive farming
Yeah.
for describing what you're doing. Is that why some like half of them have died because you're kind of do you know the stun strategic total utter neglect that's like Mark Shepard's approach to you plant a lot of things like you're essentially mimicking what plants do, like they spread thousands of seeds knowing that like 10 will survive, and
Hmm.
because they just sort of scatter their seed and they don't try to like raise their babies. Are
Yeah.
you doing that kind of thing, or what's going on? Talk about
I wouldn't
low
say.
and
I would say maybe a
non-intensive.
little bit more like Fukuoka.
Sure,
This writer from Japan, this farmer. A little
sure.
more in that realm. I mean, basically, this is how I see it. I take over a vineyard that's 40 years old. It hasn't really been touched in 15 years. They were plowing between the rows still, just I guess out of habit or something. But they weren't maintaining the vines. They weren't watering, which it doesn't need to be watered out there. The water table's about 9 feet underground, so these
Hmm.
40-year-old Grenache vines that look like trees can definitely get to the water.
Right.
Um, I quit tilling. I got them to stop tilling, and then we had about maybe 2 years after I took it over, we stopped tilling, and there was the torrential downpour that happened in California 2 years ago. And when that happened, all of this stuff that was in the untilled rows came to life, and I'm sure a lot of stuff washed in. The property's surrounded on two sides by wild forests that are like part of a some land that the county had to buy under California law for building a highway in a different area and taking away habitat from animals.
Oh,
So I'm
so you're
next to this like
surrounded by a green space essentially.
yeah, like
Like,
one whole side of the vineyard is 20 acres of totally crazy swampy forest filled with coyotes and birds of prey and probably lots of other things. Then the south end is a forest that I technically lease, but I go in there to get a late blackberry harvest. That's about it. It's a very wild forest that's really hard to navigate without a machete. And then on another side, there is a kind of drainage field for my landlord has a fish farm, and sometimes he drains his ponds and nets all the tiny fish and sells them to people to
yeah.
stock their own fish ponds. And then to the north, there's just a field which used to be a nut farm, but is all ripped out. And I think that they're going to plant pomegranates there, but I don't know that for sure.
Mm, yeah.
So anyway, yeah, the vineyard is interesting. So I don't see it as if I'm some radical non-intensive farmer. I just the place was already doing well wild, and it's a
Right.
story as old as time that people in Napa and Sonoma will tell you, hundreds of people they know. Well, we bought this vineyard, we hired a guy to manage it, and half of it died, or whatever happened. They prune it too hard, it doesn't make enough fruit. They pull too many leaves, it gets too much sun, whatever it is, right?
Right.
So I thought, why would I just come in here thinking that I'm God when God is in every molecule of this vineyard and it's doing just fine? I mean, there's a couple of things that I do. We harvest the blackberries every year and we cut all the blackberry vines, but they're impossible to kill. I'm sure you could, but they come back. We do
Yeah.
stuff like that just to make it navigable. Basically, we mow before we pick sometimes, just so that we can walk through.
Right.
But yeah, basically the vines are there's trees growing all out there. Some of the vines are growing up trees. I know you're interested in that. I heard your episode with the woman from Turkey,
Yeah.
um, and so that's a evolutionary thing that's kind of picked up out there. Um, the farming aspect is fun. I mean, it's a way for us to kind of play with climate proofing, like kind of looking what would what would a vineyard look like in the future somewhere else where it's going to get way hotter,
Right. Well,
I think in about 2 weeks it's going to be 115 here. So,
yeah.
we're already there. I mean, I imagine it might get hotter here as well, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's an interesting project. We don't really prune. We kind of do some we do some thinning, later on, but and also because it's so non-intensive, all I've discovered all these things about grapes that I don't think I would have ever learned. Like if you don't prune about every other year, some of them won't make any fruit and some of them will make way too much fruit every other year. And they seem like they're dormant in the year between, right?
Right.
Um, so I think that this is, kind of interesting knowledge. I mean, there were also like a lot of people who saw it at first told me you should pull out this vine and this vine that looks like they're dormant or dead or they're not strong enough. And, I didn't do any of that labor. And then the vine came back or a new bush vine came out of the roots. So some of it is been very advantageous considering that I don't have the resources to do all the to rewire every single thing in the vineyard anyway.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, and it sounds like you're not spraying either.
We do one biodynamic style spray a year, and it's all the weeds in the vineyard put into a big plastic barrel, weed whacked, smashed up, chopped up, and we add salt water, and we filter it out and we spray that, and it's got a lot of horsetail. There's wild mint. There's stinging nettles out there. So
Huh.
that's pretty much our only thing that we do um,
You do that once a year?
once a year. Yeah,
Yeah. Nice. I did that
yeah,
once with a piece of land where I took all the what I, what somebody might call weeds growing on it and fermented them and poured the water back where they were growing and they never came back.
that's amazing.
It's kind of strange. You're not experiencing that. You're not losing your horsetail and nettle and stuff like that, I guess.
It's everywhere. Yeah, I mean the
So
nettle
it's
is borderline a problem. You can't. It can get really
yeah,
spiky.
painful to walk through.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I I discovered a patch of wood nettle here in New York recently on a hike. Like started wading through it, and I was like, "Oh, hello, who are you?" Ouch! And then had to back out and be like, "Ah, good thing." Um, are you and you're fermenting that stuff? Like you're letting it sit for a while, or what? How do you? How's the
yeah,
preparation? Okay, not
yeah.
cooking,
We
just
let it
letting it.
ferment.
Yeah.
It's kind of in the sun. It gets a little warm.
Now, why salt water?
It's just something that was in the biodynamic recipe that I read. It's like sea salt.
Huh. Okay. That's wild. How
Yeah,
do
it
you
wasn't a
how do you
wasn't a huge amount.
Okay, how do you get it out there? Like, do you have backpack sprayer? Do you have a tractor? What do you do?
Oh, I it's a backpack sprayer. Yeah,
Okay. And you spray it on everywhere, just vines, everything.
yeah. Before the fruits come out.
Right. Amazing. So, not a lot of issue with fungus there because of the extremes of temperature, and probably heats up pretty quick in the spring and gets pretty cold in the winter too, right? What elevation are you at?
I'm only at 400 feet, but I work with some sites that are much higher near me,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I don't farm some of those sites as well.
Does it get warm quickly, or does it get cold? I mean, it must get pretty cold there too, right?
It's really cold. The winter every night is below freezing for like 2 to 3 months. It has a 30 to 40 degree diurnal shift. So when the sun comes out, the sun heats up everything basically.
Right.
So and this also plays into the winemaking a lot. We do a lot of techniques that people don't really do very
Such as.
commonly or at all in North America, like cooking wine in the sun in big ceramic eggs, cooking wine in glass, cooking wine in steel, and like some really long skin contacts. There's a couple of people that do things like that. So
When you say
we're
cooking
really
it, you don't mean like lighting a fire under it. You just mean like sort of like a sun tea, but it's wine.
yeah, it's like Rancio or Madeira wine. They do the same thing in Madeira. They put it
Right.
in black painted black boxes in the sun and it gets hot.
Right.
I mean, the cheap Madeiras they actually put in an oven, but the nicer ones they cook in the sun and it takes
Right.
longer, right? Some capitalism there. But yeah,
Fortifying
we
as well.
no, none of those are fortified, but a lot of
Okay.
people are very thrown off realizing that you can make wine like that that's not fortified, and they just associate it the taste with that. But
Yeah.
actually, in Jerez, Spain, there's a couple of natural winemakers that make a kind of sherry that's not fortified. That's very similar to one of the wines we make.
Huh. I remember seeing a documentary where that kind of blew my this one technique that kind of blew my mind, where Italians were taking their newly bottled wines and storing it on their terracotta roofs for a year. And that was
Yeah,
like a similar thing, right? Like they're just cooking it. It's aging like 10 years in that year.
yeah,
So
it's
what are your,
interesting. It's kind of it is aging it in some ways, but it really just changes everything chemically. It really stabilizes the wine to where it can. It's the ultimate natural wine thing. Really, is putting it in the sun and stabilizing the hell out of it.
yeah. I mean, so what are the flavors? How does it change the flavor? Like if you had one that wasn't aged like that versus one that was, what would you know? Or like, what are
So
the general?
we do a tasting between four wines that is exactly this idea. One is a light red Grenache, and we cook some of them in glass and steel in the sun, and some of it we bottle it while it's still fermenting, just a little bit, like a point 0.3 bricks,
Okay.
and then we get this fresh, fruity. It's a Grenache. It has the violets smell. It's got like raspberry, strawberry kind of thing, and then the
Yep.
cooked one, it becomes like those fruits but dried. It gets leathery. The tertiary flavors really come to the fore when you first open it, and they kind of slowly blow off.
Okay.
And this is like cooked in the sun for like a year. Um,
Wow.
basically, the longer the bottle is open, the less it tastes like leather and soil and earth and wood, and the more it tastes like dried golden fruit. And
Mm.
some of them are sweet, but you can't tell until they've been open for like a few hours, and then that kind of leathery thing blows off, and you can taste a little bit of the RS. There's
There is a
another
little bit of,
wine.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go.
No, there's a little bit of RS.
Yeah, there's a little bit of RS, which can be really, really magical in that kind of flavor profile.
Sure.
Um, there's another wine that we were talking about earlier, where I was offered these 5 Rhone varieties, which were underripe, right? And they weren't going to get their ripeness. The acid was dropping. And I thought, I don't really make underripe wine. That's the total opposite of what I do, pretty much. Like all of this stuff that I do requires phenolic ripeness, more alcohol. Even if I lose some of the alcohol to cooking the wine, I need it, you know? So I took these five varieties and I went 2,000 feet below to where my grapes were growing and I crushed them with the overripe grapes, and it
Right.
really came out like a magical rosé that we make called the Nine Veils.
Okay.
But we so the Nine Veils is foot crushed nine grapes co-fermented, and there's some chemistry in co-fermentation where the more colors that are present in the skins, the more they will pull each other out of the skins. So
Okay.
um, it's got a lot of color for just being foot crushed because it's these nine grapes co-fermented.
Right. Right.
We bottled the Nine Veils fresh at 0.3 bricks, and then we put the rest in American oak barrels that are outside our winery and they're not temperature controlled. And we didn't top them up, we just left them sealed.
Okay.
And after some time, we bottled all of them, and they're like, if you side by side them, you can have similar acid at the beginning, and then the ones that are kind of cooked in the barrel just they turn into like roasted nuts, caramel, just like dried fruits, fruit leather kind of thing. It's really interesting to kind of try to side by side two wines like that, where one is pushed to the extreme limits of oxidation and the other one is you're trying to keep it fresh.
Right. And you, yeah. So, what else are you doing with winemaking there?
Well, we do our upcycling program, so we've
Yeah.
upcycled
So, go ahead.
about 20,000 pounds of fruit that was going to get thrown away.
Okay.
So we will try to make anything into wine. We've done a lot of experiments, and we have like a nectarine wine that we sell. We have a damson plum wine, which I was just reading about. So damson plums have a lot more tannin than a normal plum that someone would sell for you to eat here, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that they were from Serbia because in Serbia they make them into wine, which they then make into rakia, which is like everybody's uncle's homemade liquor, right?
Right.
And I found out they're actually from Damascus, from Syria, originally, they think, and that they were
Yeah.
spread around in like very ancient times. But they're one of my favorite things to make into wine. They really have a tannic structure like some of the more complicated, heavier red grapes, and a kind of pectin that changes the mouthfeel a lot and makes like a little sort of, because ours is bottle fermented and we don't disgorge it, there's like a little bit of yeasty, pectiny, fruity, like natural wine boba in the bottom.
Natural wine boba. I know what
People,
you're talking about. Yeah. No, I've had
th-
it. It's delicious. Yeah.
those
It was
who've
fun.
dared to try the boba have loved it, but there are many who
Yeah.
have not tried.
I don't think I had the boba, but it's still a kind of cloudy, delicious wine, right? It's not like, yeah, it's still got a lot going on. Like, I mean, there's
Yeah,
still a lot of suspended particles in the full wine. Maybe it's just
yeah.
because you had that bottle in your pocket or something, and we're smuggling it into wherever we had it. I'm trying to remember the context there.
Yeah, so we upcycle a lot of fruits. We work with some local organic farms. We've done a lot of varieties of peaches and nectarines, plums. We've done apricots, which apricots are totally covered in Brettanomyces naturally.
Okay. Okay.
Which when I started to think about it, I was like, oh, that makes sense because Belgian beer, they barrel age it for 2 years. It's flat, and to bottle it, sometimes they pour it over crushed apricots on the way to the bottle to bottle re-ferment.
With
Um,
the Brett yeast.
yeah, well, with the sugar and the juice of the apricots, and then they bring
Oh, oh,
some Brett into it in that process. So that's why they're a little
got it.
bready.
Got
I
it.
mean, I don't
Huh.
know. Maybe their barrels are totally filled with Brett too. It could just be everywhere, but it's probably the apricots.
It might have started with the apricots, yeah.
Yeah,
So, have do you like that flavor? I mean, have you played around to see if that's something you like in the wine that you're making with those?
it's interesting. It definitely gets better with age, and I would say that people are quite open to it outside of the ultra conservative wine world,
Okay.
um, which I have one foot in at times, but I kind of don't really care about that much. I mean, I make Nebbiolo and Sagrantino, and I have these even these oxidized wines. There's a certain cachet there of like old world European forbidden techniques that nobody's doing, but
Right. Right.
it's also I'm out here to experiment. I would say honestly the that they make really amazing liquors. So I think we're gonna work with a distiller to make some of these things. The original dream plan was to have zero waste with the winery and distill everything that couldn't be wine, or
Yeah.
tasted too weird to be wine or whatever. And distilling definitely, you definitely lose all the Brett quality. You just get fruit notes that come through. A certain amount of kind of water and alcohol attached molecules come through. Um, but yeah, Brett and apricots. That's an interesting thing because I've never made anything else ever with any Brett in it really. But those were 100% Brett, and it was like a slap in the face.
That's great. Um, yeah, I mean, I you just mentioned a couple things, but I'm going back to like your history a little bit. Well, instead of jumping backwards, let's stay where we are. The What do you think of the term fruit wines? I've never heard you use it,
Um,
even though even though you make what some people would call fruit wines.
I think I have to put it on. I think it's legally on some of my bottles.
Yeah.
There was some back and forth with the TTB about, these. Everybody kind of has that who makes wine. You have to go back and forth, and it's pretty arbitrary, really. They kind of just depends on who you're talking to, what the rules are at the time. It seems like,
Yep.
but I think that fruit wines are one of the wines of the future, and they're definitely the wines of the past.
Yep.
Um, you know, it's funny. California, there's so many thousands of Californias. There's like 10,000 Californias or more. Um, I have a
What
giant.
does that mean? What do you mean by that?
I mean that there's you could all live on the same mountain in different elevations and different sides of it, and all have a totally different terroir. Like there's just
Oh.
so many Californias, and also you know, like I bought this giant stainless steel tank. It's really beautiful. It's like pressure proof. It's like very robust.
Yep.
And I bought it from this guy in Sheep Ranch, California, which is in the absolute middle of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
And it's famous for like Clint Eastwood shot like some film there or something along in the
Okay.
80s. So I
Yeah.
go to this place. This guy has a certified organic farm, and he has these wild plum trees all over the place, making tons of like those little orange plums, that are very tart.
Yeah.
And I buy the tank from him, and it's so remote that they don't. When they have a visitor, they like me to have dinner with them, and their son had been on like American Idol or something, and he wanted to play a concert for us. So I watched him sing and play the guitar, and I ended up staying the night there. And the next day, they offered me as many plums as I wanted. So I came back and filled up a macro bin with these very wild plums, right?
Yeah.
And I found out that they had this steel tank because they would fill it with all their neighbors with all these plums and step on it and make like a super wild wine. And as they explained it, they said they would get the whole town drunk for 3 days and then dump it out.
Oh, there's some great energy and history in that tank. That sounds
So
amazing.
this is one of the 10,000 Californias I'm talking about. Like if you start buying stuff over the internet, find a good deal on a tank, you may end up inside of it with a bunch of village people. Um, it was beautiful, and I
That's
still keep in touch
amazing.
with
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fantastic.
the property's really nice. I mean, he had this beautiful spring kind of coming out of the side of a mountain, and
Yeah.
but anyway, there's so many Californias. It's a real shame that that's not a brand you can buy of that town's plum wine or whatever. I think fruit wine is awesome, and I'll take the Pepsi challenge with I have fruit wines that people think for sure there's grapes in them or that they're made of grapes.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's really, honestly, the biggest problem I've run into with fruit wines is that a lot of fruits are bred for some reason. People think that fruit breeders think that consumers want low acid fruits to eat fresh. And
Right.
I don't think that that's ever been true. So sometimes people will give me like a low acid breed, organic plum, peach, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've made them into nice wines actually, but if I had had some Picpoul Blanc there or the high acid option or whatever, I probably would have gone for it.
The damson plums. I mean, those tannins seem like something you could build a really balanced, beautiful wine with.
Yeah, we made it in bottle, we bottled it while it was slightly fermenting, and it was undrinkable for a long time. I mean, it really took a long time to resolve. So
The,
it
the
reminded me
tannins.
of, yeah, it reminded me of drinking Sagrantino when it's not ready yet,
Oh wow. Yeah.
which is,
Yeah.
about as tannic as things get in a certain
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about? We were talking a little bit beforehand about your winemaking and sort of approach to problem solving. Put it that way. You don't lean on chemicals to solve problems of ripeness or whatever. Can you talk a little bit about how you problem solve when making
Sure.
wine?
We just, our toolbox is like a lot more out there than a normal winery, probably, maybe more like a cider maker. I feel more in line with a lot of cider makers who will kind of ferment anything. Um, I've, through my trials of like oxidizing stuff in the sun, sometimes things lose a lot of character and they'll have the flavor note left of like yeast. It just tastes like bread yeast
Right.
and maybe a trace of fruit. So I embrace a lot of re-fermentation, which is not that common. I mean, people do it to make pet nats and champagnes that are aged on the lees or whatever. But I re-ferment grape wines with other fruits frequently, and I mean it can bring back so much life, and you add these kind of layers of complexity where you have oxidative layers and you have fresher, possibly even reductive things going on in the wine. So, like, we were talking about the guy watering back his wine. And I said I would never do that. I'd rather put peach juice in there or blackberries or I have a really insane wine that we sell called Maman Gâteau that's oxidized Grenache re-fermented with wild blackberries. And it doesn't really taste like either thing. It tastes like a sparkling sweet mead with like a lot of unfermentable sugar in it.
Huh.
It
That's
really,
fascinating.
I don't know why, but I mean, maybe if I had blended them up or chopped them up or something, the blackberries really lent no color. It looks like it looks golden. Um,
That is
but
that
yeah,
is
I
wild.
mean, basically, we're a natural winery, kind of on the fringe. We Some of the things we end up doing, leaving the wine outside, really stabilize it a lot, though. So I would
Yeah.
say that it's another route to getting stuff into bottles and into people's mouths without it ruining that, and we try to pick things really ripe or overripe. So
Well, that and I mean, you're working essentially with your climate. I mean, cooked wine seems really smart when you live in a place where it gets 115. I mean, like you might as well
yeah,
embrace the heat at that point. I mean, like, I've talked to other winemakers about like growing wine, how to produce wine as like our climates increase in heat, how to like grow grow in such a way to accommodate the heat so that you still can make these cool fresh wines. Like Steve Mathiasen is really big about this, and he's using shade cloth and pruning techniques and canopy management, all kinds of different things to think about how to essentially moderate the microclimate of the grape cluster to still ripen it in a nice gentle way despite the scorching temperatures that they're getting in Napa, right? The opposite of that could be to just be like, well, we're going to get scorching temperatures. Let's let's scorch them. Let's scorch the wines, which is what you're doing. And
Throw
I
it
think
all
that
away, Steve. You just need some carboys in the sun.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he would be open to trying that, honestly, and
Yeah.
would have fun doing that. He is doing some fun stuff, like using, the Aleppo resin, the pine resin, instead of sulfites to stabilize one of his whites. Did you try
Oh,
one of
I've
his?
had
Yeah.
I didn't know he was doing that, but there's a guy called Talon and Blade Winery. Do you know him?
Sure. Yeah. Nat.
Yeah, he had a wine that I had that he made in the style of a Retsina that was like amazing with some local, I
Yeah.
think it was
Well,
pine tar or something from the Santa
I should
Cruz
I should
Mountains.
use his full name, Nat Wong. He's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Instead of being insider California here, Nat Wong, Talon
Yeah, I'm
Blade.
going to be pouring with him soon at the Unfiltered Festival in Donkey and Goat on July
Yeah,
26th.
that looks really great. I wish I could be there. Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, yeah. Clark Smith's going to be there, old friend of mine.
Right,
Uh,
right.
there's a
I
bunch of
love that.
people.
I actually got to meet him in person with you. Like I mean, I interviewed him first, but that was just like this, just talking into the void kind of thing, between us. But yeah, I love that on your website you say we leverage ancient and bleeding edge postmodern wine technologies to improve the carbon footprint and the farming and beverage sectors. And then it goes on. You have a lot of fun stuff. I was going to ask you. Well, so people know. I mean, you're calling yourself natural, right? And then you're working. You really are a big fan of his Clark's.
Well,
How does that work out?
so it's kind of fun. So my girlfriend Andy, co-owner of the winery, she's stepped on all the fruit, all the wine you've had. Um, she's a grant writer, and I've been writing some grants too recently. Got a couple. She got a USDA value added producer grant. If you're a winemaker and you ever want one written, she's a successful person who does it. She's, people hire her to write grants for them sometimes. So it's a multi stage grant for anybody who grows something and then turns it into a product with added value. So it can be as stupid as you grow a fruit and you make it into juice, or you make it into dried fruit or preserves or wine or anything, right?
Right.
So we get this grant, and I didn't really know who Clark was, but if you look for somebody to write the business plan, so the grant gives you, I think it's like $9,500, and you have to match it with $9,500. It's something in this area of numbers, and
Got it.
that that money goes towards hiring marketing, and it can be like label design and marketing for your product, and it can also, the other half of it goes for a business plan. And I'd written some business plans for the winery, but they were not like this kind of business plan. This business plan is like spreadsheets of sales and things going deep into the future.
Right.
So Clark is that guy, and that's how I met Clark. We hired him. He advertises himself online as that. He advertises as he has a grant writer who'll write you the grant, but Andy had already written the grant. So I cold email him and say, "Hey, we want to hire you to do this if we get this grant. This is what we're up to." And he said, "I'm coming down next weekend if you can have me, and I want to try all the wines, see the vineyard, see everything."
Okay.
So Clark is either all in or all out. He comes down. He's probably 73. Um, and he rents a little cabin, which is near my vineyard. And
Okay.
we try all each other's wines. We talk. And so Clark and I, he wrote us the business plan. We got the grant, and we got to pay him to write us the business plan. And that gets us to the next level of the grant that you can apply for, which is for way more money, right?
Right.
On in another year, which we're doing this year. And Clark
Good
has
luck.
invented, all kinds of techniques for winemaking, and honestly, most of it I'm not that interested in. I'm interested in very, very small amount of it, but where we have a nice overlap is we ended up hiring him to help us taste through all of our wines and talk about them.
Yeah.
So he would give us a slider like rustic to plush or acidic to non acidic, or, they were all different. Some of them were ideas, some of them were actual flavors.
Mm.
And we went through each wine with 60 data points of is it more this or is it more that? And Clark put it into a giant map with our 8 or 10 wines on there. And we got to see which flavors we didn't have at all and which ones we did. And it kind of started to influence the way we thought about like our portfolio of wines.
Great. Yeah.
Other than that, the only other technological thing I've ever done that Clark really likes is two things. I found some acacia barrels, which Clark he likes to ferment his reds on acacia chips,
Huh.
um, which doesn't have a toasty vanilla flavor at all. It's like a way different kind of tannin that kind of accentuates the fruit. And
Hmm.
I didn't. I'm not going to get any chips, but I have some acacia barrels that I ferment in now and that I age wine in. And then I also got this thing that he endorses called a Go fermenter. I just happened to find one. It was almost free. It was like 1/5 of the cost. It had never been used, and it's this like giant plastic bag made out of corn or some kind of plant that where you can mulch this thing. You can go leave it in the sun and it'll turn into earth or something.
Okay.
It's I'll try to keep this short because this is could be insanely long. This guy from India basically was trying to figure out how to what's it called when you're diabetic and your pancreas can't make insulin. He was trying to
Insulin.
figure out how to make insulin because at the time insulin that you got medically was from pigs, which can be used in humans, but Hindu people, Muslim people, probably more people than that, can't have pig insulin, right?
Okay.
So
Yep.
he was trying to figure out how to make insulin the way our body does, which is actually a very complicated and tightly controlled fermentation in your body.
Okay.
So he starts off using winery equipment, and it's all too dirty for this. He has like a 98% failure rate
Right.
because wine has all this other stuff in it that protects it, right?
Right.
Or with beer, you boil everything before,
Right.
which they couldn't do in this case. So he decides to make a plastic bag which was manufactured in a kind of high heat with a vacuum in it, and it's never had anything in it. And then they do the fermentation inside the bag, and they figure it out. They can make this
Insulin.
insulin, and GE buys it from him for like hundreds of millions of dollars, gives him a U.S. passport. He moves to California. What do you do when you have hundreds of millions of dollars and you're in California? Well, you become an asshole who drinks wine. And so the guy started drinking wine, and he wanted to make wine, of course. And so he made this system that emulates his system for creating insulin, but without, messing with the patents or making it super expensive or anything. So basically, you have this big plastic bag. You can run a must pump into it, or you can cut it open and seal it back up and put whole grapes in it.
Okay.
And it's in a special macro bin that's just a little taller walled than a regular macro bin. And it has another plastic bag on the outside of it, which you have a small computer with an air pump, and that fills up with an air compressor, and it crushes it against the walls of the macro bin in the air. And
Right.
so you can do like automated punch downs. You can do like 40 punch downs a day if you want and really just squeeze the absolute hell out of it. You can make totally reductive wine. You can add air to it. Um, so I ended up finding this cool guy in Napa who had one, and harvest was starting. He hadn't messed around with it. He wanted to sell it for like almost nothing. So we have one of those. We have a Sagrantino in there, which is kind of crazy.
And yeah, how are you using it? Just as a storage vessel?
I did everything that I just explained in it. You can use it as a press, and it
Okay.
only takes regular, wall power. You don't have to have like a four-phase inverter or whatever.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
So you can use it as a press. You can use it as aging vessels. You can make these kind of reductive wines in it. But basically, it's funny because I brought Clark to a natural wine fair I was pouring at. And, if people taste my wine and think that I'm some kind of chemist, they're insane. Like, they're, they've totally lost they have no palate and no idea what's going on. So I don't care like about, and I like Clark, but there were people who were like, I can't believe that you've got this like wine chemistry guy. I'm like, whatever. He's taught me a lot about tasting wine, and he's an interesting character.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is interesting. We were talking about that, about just the dogma is, it's almost like, well, it's crazy. I don't know. Yeah, it's too
It, it
restrictive for
it's
me.
it's very much, and I'll say that
It's like you
often
can't
the
talk to
dogma.
people who aren't natural. Like, oh dear God, yeah, I can't talk to you. You add sulfites. Sorry. Um,
Yeah, I mean it's fun. It's really funny. Like I don't know. There's plenty of wine I've drank that has sulfur in it. I'm not into. I'm into the challenge of not using it in lots of different ways.
oh yeah, I didn't
Um,
mean to talk about sulfites at all. I just I just meant
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
kind of the
yeah.
attitude you come across. Yeah.
I understand, but honestly, I honestly feel like most of the time that's like a poser, and they're not. There's not even
Right.
any. It's just a little secret to them instead of whatever. So I don't know. I would say, they need to make some wine outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, can you talk about how much food waste there is?
There is $218 billion estimated a year, and that's a couple of years ago, just in the U.S. And most of that is at the farm level because, well, a lot of farms are small and they don't have the resources to have processing stuff. And, they don't necessarily know that it'll work out for them if they're going to try to make all their almost finished fruit into some product.
Right. Right. It's a
Obviously,
risk.
yeah, some of them are easier than others. And you can always put some stuff in the sun, but you need to pit it and it takes manpower. And, you got to make sure that animals aren't going to show up and eat it.
Right.
So it's a massive thing. I mean, I'm just working with a couple of small local organic farms. I think the biggest one is 120 acres, something like that. And just from 3 farms, we've done 20,000 pounds of fruit that would have been wasted into wine. So
Wow.
I do think that that's kind of the future of the project, and that I want to expand on that part of it. I don't necessarily want more than 9 acres of grapes. I also have a couple of other vineyards that I help farm and that I get fruit from. And so, you know, my girlfriend lives here with me half the year. One person and 9 acres, even in my style of mostly ignoring it, it's still like a lot. It's a whole lot. So I think as far as the food waste, the upcycling, um, I think it's kind of the future is like trying to get our food to be like our food producing network to have these kind of built-in preservation things, whether it's dried fruit or fermentation works really well for preservation.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of funny misconceptions. Like I remember when I first started doing it, winemakers would say to me, "You don't want to be doing that. You don't want people to think that this is waste." And I would say, well, if you actually came here and saw what I'm doing, you would realize that this is the most pristine fruit possible. Like a lot of these fruits can't make enough sugar normally to make very good wine. But if they're overripe and they're in cold storage and they're going to go bad within like an hour of taking them out, this is the optimal sugar level.
Right. Right.
So for my purposes, they often are like very perfect. We just drive them in a pickup truck over to our press and get to work before they get warm. By the time they warm up, they're already juice. And it's an interesting thing. Like, I mean, there's also places where we've picked stuff that was going to be cleared, or it was going to be, there's all kinds of mad schemes out here with real estate because um,
Oh yeah.
hedge funds treat real estate in America like it's some kind of piggy bank, or I don't even know what to compare it to, like it's a
Yeah. Like an,
stock.
yeah, it's a stock. Right.
And so weird things happen out here where I see places sell and they say, we're going to be clearing this like 200 acres of peaches There was a guy near me. It was our nectarine wine. They cleared all of it, and they offered me the fruit before. So
Yeah.
we picked as much as we possibly could, and then that place is now just an empty field that went up in value somehow because of some madness, some tax loophole or whatever. Um,
Wild. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, the food waste aspect is cool, but I think that it's also it's an interesting angle to have, and that I would like to expand on that part of it. I don't think that I could ever outgrow the Central Valley because there's so much fruit here. Just where I live, there's like an almost infinite amount grown.
Yeah. It does seem
It,
like that, doesn't it? Almost
it,
infinite.
I mean, if I
Yeah.
drive south an hour and a half to Bakersfield, there's way more organic farms there, and that's not even most of the valley. It goes 4 or 5 hours north of that,
Yeah.
and then east to
I
west.
mean,
So,
organic's still the minority for sure, right?
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's
Yeah.
industrial
Yeah.
stuff everywhere, but there is quite a bit of organic farming out here, and um, the government has programs for you to convert to organic because someone at some point in the federal government can see that it's not sustainable to not do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange time to be doing business in America, huh? I mean, I just talked to a friend of mine who's a wine importer, and he was totally freaked out about the threat of tariffs again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's a strange time to be in America, period.
yeah,
um, don't get me started. Well, you are currently a student, aren't you?
that's true. I'm getting my PhD at the European Graduate School in Malta and Switzerland.
What is it? What will it be in? The PhD.
Technically, literary, musical, and visual thought, but it's basically a PhD in philosophy.
Okay.
So, my partner Andy is also in the same program, and she has been making dances for 20 something years, and I've been making films and music. And we met at an MFA program in Berlin called
Okay.
Transart Institute. And
Cool.
so, a part of this project being kind of out there is that we're both artists professionally for a long time. So it's kind of where the mindset comes from to kind of change things up. Um, yeah, I'd kill myself if I was trying to make like classical wines in some hyper conservative constraints. So, but yeah, the program is really cool. There's a lot of celebrity professors, artists, and film directors, and philosophers and writers, and basically they can come and teach at it for a long weekend, and they don't have to give up their full time gig, at NYU or wherever.
Yeah.
So, like, I took a class with Slavoj Žižek, Frank Ruda, Christopher Fensk is the dean also, but he also teaches amazing courses. And my advisor, Lars Eier, he's an amazing novelist, a Blanchot scholar.
Okay.
Um, he gave up philosophy. He didn't think he could live up to his hero, Maurice Blanchot, this very interesting French thinker who kind of wrote a lot of letters with other famous philosophers, and he kind of rides the line between literature and philosophy.
Uh huh.
And Lars abandoned philosophy after writing two books on this guy, saying he couldn't live up to him. And then he started teaching creative writing and doing his philosophy through his art, which is writing novels. And now he's a quite successful novelist, and he teaches that. And he's my advisor for my PhD project, which is about being and becoming in existence as a cinematic audio-visual becoming. And it's kind of done in the style of like ancient philosophers like Heraclitus and Thales. Thales is the first known philosopher. He sort of related everything back to water, and Heraclitus related everything back to fire and change and constant change.
Okay.
He's famous for saying you can never step in the same river twice because
Mm.
it's not the same river and you're not the same person.
Right.
And I'm kind of doing mine in the style of these ancient philosophers, where everything is referencing back to this audiovisual becoming. And yeah, it's been really fun. It's really out there and wild. I'm If you look at the guidelines to my school's PhD, I'm basically breaking all of them. You're supposed to get into like a hyper specific thing, and mine is like a lot more general at the beginning.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, it's been fun, and Andy's in the same program, and I don't know. At some point, we'll finish and we'll both publish our little books, and go about our merry way. I'm not sure it'll actually lead anywhere. The whole reason I signed up was so that I could write a book. I had this idea for this book, and I went to the school with the intention of relating everything to it and trying to finish it.
How'd it go?
It's going good. Um,
Okay, great.
I don't know. There's like thousands of pages of notes. There's a couple hundred pages finished. So at some point, I will turn it in and have to do a defense,
Nice.
uh,
Okay.
which is quite funny because I think if you get approved to do the defense, you've already passed the test.
Right, right,
So it's a formality that they still do sometimes on Zoom. Sometimes people fly to where their advisor lives and do it live. But
right.
yeah, it's been fun. It's an interesting lens of the world. In some ways, studying philosophy is a lot like getting a degree in law, where you learn all these systems and rules and how to apply them and how they affect each other. But
Hmm.
you don't ever have to kill yourself like lawyers have a big threat of doing. There's not all the stress, and you don't make any money either. So it's kind of the opposite of the outcome of studying law.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's been fun. You can read some of our philosophical inspired writing on our wine bottles.
I was just reading. I'm reading Plum Numena,
Oh,
and
okay.
it says immanence or transcendence, young vigneron. Whatever processes of the universe at large that bore out the human race from a lineage of animality need to be palpated. If we came out of something non-human, what does that mean? And then it goes to talk about the wine. Okay, so what's interesting is I just started a book last night that I can't remember the title of, but it is this question of immanence over transcendence. So we live in a culture that has embraced transcendence, right? Like consciousness is this indicator of a soul and,
Yes.
outside spirituality, right? Versus immanence, which is like, historically what most people have believed in, which is like spirit is imbued in everything. And it's sort of like animism, I guess, is a way that it has been described as well. I mean, or animism is a form of immanence, essentially. I
Yeah,
mean, tell me if,
or Spinoza is big on eminence. He's probably the main torchbearer in the Western philosophical canon.
okay.
Um, and this got him totally isolated for the rest of his life. But he thought that everything was God. Every molecule in existence was God, and it was all the same material.
That's
He was
fantastic.
from a very conservative Jewish sect, and so that after that,
Yeah.
after he made these declarations, he only had like 20 people who would talk to him, half of them in secret.
Yep.
And,
Well,
um,
hold on a
yeah,
sec.
so
I'm gonna
oh,
we're,
go
we're
on.
gonna be silent for a minute. I'm gonna go grab that book and then I'll have the title. Hold on one second. Okay, that book title is The New Science of the Enchanted Universe, an anthropology of most of humanity by Marshall Salins, Sahlins.
Okay,
Um, there you go. Apparently,
cool.
he
Thanks.
was the advisor for David Graeber. If you know David Graeber, who
Oh, I
wrote the
love David
Dawn.
Graeber.
Yeah, so this was his like advisor or mentor or something like that, and
Yeah,
this
it's
was like
probably his
his last
PhD
book.
advisor.
Yeah, right. And so I think this was like his last book, The New Science of the Enchanted Universe.
I love
Thought
that.
you
I
might
mean,
enjoy it. Yeah.
Andy and I read we have an arts retreat called Archaeology of the Frivolous, that happens at the end of our harvest every year, and people come and they try all the wines. They try all my friends' wines. We play films. We have bands play. We watch films. We do all kinds of stuff. We've had star parties in the mountains, and it all kind of came out of our MFA, where we would all come to Berlin together for a month after interacting online only for the rest of the year, and it was a giant party for that month. So we
That's
we
great.
read this like reading group about Gilles Deleuze, and he was a big Spinozist. He was really big on immanence and becoming instead of being. And so it's something that we think about and talk about pretty frequently. I guess the most common version of it is like Christianity or your religion, where you feel like everything you do on this earth is a test for you to go to the next heaven or whatever,
Right, right.
to transcend this place. But I like applying it to the wine and the winemaking itself. And on that label, I'm talking about if the world wasn't created by something like a god, then how did knowledge come out of non-knowledge? And I'm really interested in playing with the ideas of non-knowledge in winemaking, like not opening a barrel for a year or two, and when I open it, if it tastes good, we bottle it immediately, right? I think that there's a lot of Apollonianism in people that prod their wine every week or two and test it, and they don't realize that they're risking spoilage. They're letting all the gas out of the barrel that might be protecting the wine that's slowly come out of the wine. Um, and Nietzsche talks a lot about this idea of art as concealing and revealing, and it has to be rhythmically pulsating in this concealing and revealing, or it's not art. It's something else,
Mm,
right? It's just like expression. I feel like a lot of people think that art is just expression,
mm,
but he really thought that art was something else. It was more akin to like the artist who may not know anything, they may not know much, but they have an instinct on how to get wet and climb something high and get hit by lightning by the gods and have their little moment of aporia or whatever, you know?
mm-hmm.
So this is a part of our wine too that I think is interesting. Is there's a and also the farming. There's this aspect of like um, not not constantly testing, not constantly prodding, not even touching a vine that I think is dead for a year, and then it kind of makes a new vine out of it, or it makes some fruit the next year. So I think
Huh.
that nature has all of these things going on that we're never going to be totally privy to, you know. And there's that I can't remember how they term it, but there's this idea that if you observe certain phenomena, the act of you observing them will change the outcome.
Yeah.
So, and it happens in science experiments and stuff. So actually,
Right,
you
right.
know what, Clark
They
is
figured
writing a
this.
very oh sorry go on.
I was just going to say they figured this out by studying light particles. They would
Uh-huh.
like when observed, they changed their behavior. So like physicists realized it basically.
Yeah,
That
yeah. Clark is writing a whole book about this kind of idea, like about how the certain things that underpin science completely, from the way that science is done at the like most base level, are often like a lot more chaotic or not correct than you would assume.
right.
And there's some really oh, what's his name? There's a philosopher that's written about this in great detail, Michel Serre.
Okay.
It's really an interesting thing to come across and to read about and to think about. We made a lot of progress with some of these things, even though the underpinnings may have, but the underpinnings of lots of things don't necessarily matter or have to be true to get you to another place or another beyond.
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
winemaking, we didn't even know that yeast existed until 100 years ago or something. People just made wine in it and it happened.
Right.
It was
Right.
like, it
For
was literally
thousands of
just,
years.
it was
Yep.
God or nature or whatever. Yeah, it was 8,000 years of winemaking of just like step on it and sort of pray, maybe like close it up, put some herbs and honey in there or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you mentioned Nietzsche. You quote Nietzsche, or Nietzsche. A Nietzsche quote is a title of one of your wines. The night is also a sun,
Yeah,
and
that's all about the non-knowledge. That's about kind of you can you can discover you can see things in the night, with the lack of light, you can find discoveries, you can kind of use it to your advantage. I like this kind of idea of pulsating from revealing to concealing. I think it's very useful. Um,
yeah,
it's a lot more useful to me than thinking that everything in art is expression. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily care what anybody wants to express. I'm interested in all the other things that come along with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Locally hated. Tell me about that one.
Locally hated is the Nine Vales, but aged in barrels. So it's been kind of cooked into like roasted nuts and caramel. Um,
Okay.
and basically, it's got my face on there.
Yeah.
And it's about my neighbors down the street who told me that organic farming is not real. So they're kind of spraying themselves in various agrochemicals that get banned and replaced with something more toxic every 10 years. And
Uh, uh.
they appear to be doing just fine, but they heard I was converting it to organic, and they said that to me at the coffee shop. So I made this wine, and yeah,
What literally did they say? They literally said organic isn't real, or would they say?
they said I heard you're converting that place to organic farming, scare quotes, and I was like, yeah, and they're like, that's not real. There is no everything is organic farming. I was like, well, it means no pesticides, like the ones that have $8 billion funds for when they give you cancer that they'll pay for the treatment. That it's proven in court at this point that Roundup
Right.
causes, I can't remember what it's
Yeah.
called. It's like a cancer that barely existed in humanity before that, and now it's pretty common.
Yeah. Right.
And yeah, I don't know.
And
That's just
and
par
what
for the course out here. There's a lot of
did they
hicks.
respond when you said that? Did they
I
respond to
mean,
your
we
response?
we we kind of argued about it for a little bit, and I also told them that the vineyard was ignored for 15 years and is alive. So, you know, it's beyond organic farming. It's just it can just live there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grenache is an amazing thing, actually. I
Yeah.
think that it's still out there because it's all stiff and kind of wind resistant.
Okay.
They talk about how that's how it survives the Mistral, the constant wind in this part of France. Um,
Right. Right.
it makes it very, it can stab you. It's very tough, and I'm growing some hybrids as well and some other things and branching out. But I have to say that at least that form of vinifera is tough, and it's going to be around. Like, it's got a really long late ripening, and it just seems to love the heat and the sand out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Eh,
mean you're in a really fortunate place for that grape. I mean, for that grape specifically, vinifera in general, but yeah, it's like the perfect like anti-mildew climate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
um
yeah. Dry air,
yeah.
wet winters, but dry summers and springs and fall. Maybe in the fall it starts raining again. Um, yeah, it's an
Yeah, but
interesting
and
place.
Grenache is a pretty good hardy grape too. I mean,
Yeah,
Grenache is like a vinifera is one of the beasts.
yeah, it's really something else. And this area, like Sun-Made Raisins, is down the street. I think those are all hybrids actually, but they're eating
Like
grapes or
Thompson
whatever.
seedless, right? They're probably all
Yeah,
Thompson
yeah.
seedless. Yeah.
Yeah, and some geologist told them to make that here like 70 years ago or something because of the sand and the water in the ground and the dry air. And so,
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of myths about this place and the grapes. Like, if you drink anything from Napa or Sonoma that's not estate grown, um, there's a possibility that 20% of it is from here, and they're just
Right.
padding it with cheaper grapes, right?
Right.
So I've also found all these cool organic vineyards and like people's home vineyards up in the mountains, and there's all kinds of interesting elevational changes and odd odd little pockets of life out there. So the mountains are really really refreshing. I mean, also, if I didn't have this ice cold river coming out of the mountains and the ability to go up there, I probably wouldn't want to live here.
Yeah. 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 Um it you do swim in the river when it's 115, I hope.
Oh yeah, I go there every other day, every third day, something like that, whenever I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Nice. Well, what else? I mean, I don't want to keep you forever, but like what have we missed? There's so many so many juicy tidbits we could dig into. And I know you've got a lot of strong opinions about things. Are there things that you want to say that I haven't asked you about?
Um, I don't know. I mean, how many things can we say are dead? What the last episode of this I listened to, you were like, vinifera culture is dead. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Um, so I think
You want to say more stuff is dead?
yeah, like I don't know. All hail oxidation. Underripe wines are dying. I don't know. I don't think that's actually true, but you know, um, that's just my little flag I'm carrying.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we we've been selling a lot of wine direct to consumer through the mail, and we've got a new pack of all oxidized wines so that we can mail them when it's hot outside, and they won't go bad.
Right.
So that's kind of fun.
Yeah. That's great. That's
You
fantastic.
know,
That's just such a fun, smart idea. I love that. And of
yeah,
course,
there's a lot of
anything
sorry.
being dead is a shout out to Nietzsche, of course.
Uh, yeah, it's true. Transcendence is over. You guys have to embrace pure becoming in the pure present. And Dionysus is going to rip us all to death if we drink too much. But yeah, I don't know. It's going off the rails now.
um, what's your website?
It's Chateauneuf, CHATEAUNEUF.xyz.
That's it.
And we've got a little online store there through Vino Shipper. If anybody wants to buy wine, we have a long borderline manifesto thing on there, which I've been performing that live. I did it at Studio Aurora in San Francisco the other day
Where
with
is
an
that?
amazing. It's in the Mission.
The
Um,
Mission. I haven't
it's an
seen the Mission.
it's an amazing little this guy Dario Barbone's incredible Italian chef, always cooking beautiful sandwiches and breads and desserts. And the wine buyer Sophia Lemaire, she's trained to sing like those Greek Orthodox what are they called? Really beautiful ancient songs in Latin. She sang a song, and I read my manifesto there about Dionysus and Spinoza and wine, and it was fun. Actually, it's going to be an episode of the Indie Wine Podcast. Another podcast guy was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good one.
Shout out to Matt and Sophia and Dario. Yeah, we. That's pretty much it. I don't know. We sell to a couple places in the Bay in LA. Um, yeah, there's Bay Grape Oakland, Redfield Cider in Oakland. There's Pinion Ojai in Ojai. There is
Oh, I know. One other thing we should mention.
sure.
A lot of your bottles, all of your bottles, are 375,
That's right.
375 ml. No,
That's right.
no 750s.
No 750s yet, but I'm not completely opposed to it. In my world of upcycling and kind of getting things from capitalists that are too successful or too unsuccessful and end up ditching lots of things, I got about 15,000 of those bottles and caps from a CBD soda company that switched to cans because they were too successful and they needed to rapidly make more.
So that's the story there. That's great.
That's the story with the bottles, yeah. But I do have a guy, Good Time Bar in San Jose, amazing natural wine bar in downtown San Jose with a really incredible chef and amazing foods and programming.
Yeah.
And he's this guy. He used to be a technology guy, like probably a developer. I don't know. And so I came in. He bought some of the wines. He liked them. He was very friendly, but he told me that he wants 750s, and I couldn't figure it out. And then later, I saw an interview with him where he has come up with like a sort of algorithm where if he has all these 750s that cost different amounts, he charges the same amount for a glass of wine from any of them.
Oh, interesting.
And my half bottles just ruined his life. So I'm probably going
That's
to
awesome.
bottle some 750s just for him. And, I may just
Yeah.
bottle a whole barrel of 750s and have it and see how people deal with it. But
Right.
other than that, other than breaking that guy's algorithm, Everybody else loves them. It's 2 glasses of wine. You don't have to throw away a whole bottle of wine at the end of the night if you're a restaurant or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
I always tell people if they can't drink 2 glasses, they probably shouldn't be drinking. Um, they're sessionable. You can take them, somewhere you're not supposed to be drinking and sip them.
Oh, yeah, they fit in your pocket. Yep, yep.
Yeah, to the beach
We're
or
not.
whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe not a good
movie
idea. They might
theater,
break.
movie theater,
Yeah,
wine,
movie theater.
wine bar, um, or just dinner. Where you don't want to pay for overpriced alcohol.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're working on some different like multi packs of them, so that's going to be fun. Where you kind of get to try all these different wines for one box.
Right, nice. And
We're
I'm
we're lean.
kidding. Don't want to I don't want to encourage depriving restaurants which are already suffering, and it's such a hard business. We don't need to take more money from them. Please
No,
support your
no, you'll
local
be buying
restaurants
you'll
if
be
they're good,
buying them from
especially.
the restaurant.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
at several restaurants. It'll be
Okay,
easy.
good, good. There you go. There you go. I was talking about sneaking them in
Oh,
because
I
they fit
see.
in your pocket. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I want to make one correction. I looked it up, and Nat Wong's winery is Blade and Talon, not Talon and Blade.
Oh,
It's
sorry. Yeah,
alphabetical.
yeah,
Yeah, no, we both got that wrong. Wasn't you?
yeah. His wines are great.
They are. Yep. Um, well, cool, man. Thank you so much. It's really fun to talk, and obviously we could continue to talk, but let's call it. Let's call it.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening. This closing song was played by Colden Pro one night on the bank of the San Benito River, so a big thanks to him for contributing this moment of beauty to this podcast and to the world, and to the crickets and river and other night creatures who accompanied him. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting the production of more like it. Support links are always in the show notes, and you can also visit the support page of beyondorganicwine.com. Thank you.